Joe, and I'm the marketing manager at Cumbria Chamber of Commerce. I'm delighted to be joined by one of our members, Denise Gosney. Denise is an award-winning entrepreneur, and she's also founder of Razzamataz Theatre Schools. Denise went on to Dragon's Den in 2007 and walked out of the den having secured a £50,000 investment from Duncan Bannatyne. Welcome, Denise. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Really looking forward to this conversation. Can you just start out by talking to us about your life pre-Dragon's Den? How did you come to set up Razzamataz Theatre Schools?
Yeah, I don't know how far you want me to go back, but basically I was brought up in a little town near Glasgow. We were six of us in a two-bedroom council flat, so it's fair to say money was quite tight. So as much as I kind of wanted to go to dance class, it wasn't really affordable for my household. So my best friend used to go to dance classes and I would watch her in all her costumes and, just thought, oh, wouldn't it be amazing to do that? Then my mum seen an advert in the local newspaper for talented dancers. So I went along. Long story short, I caught the bug for dance and performing arts. It really shaped me to who I am today. I found something that I was good at, something that I excelled in, something that gave me huge sense of self-worth and confidence. Didn't obviously know at that age, at sort of 10, 11, that it was going to become my career. But I obviously had the passion and the drive for it, absolutely loved what I did. So went through high school, went to Performing Arts College in Essex. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship, but unfortunately I had to leave because I forgot I had to pay rent. So I had to pay rent, buy food. That was all really new to me. So unfortunately I left college. Then I was lucky enough to go into my first professional dance contract, and I was very lucky that I actually travelled the world as a dancer on cruise ships. I was one of the trapeze artists for the Millennium Dome, which is now obviously the O2 Arena. I did pantomimes, I did West End. I was really lucky considering I was quite a late starter. I didn't really go to a fancy college because I had to leave. But at 27, it was a bit like a footballer's career. I knew that I was coming to the end of my career. I'd kind of ticked all the boxes of all my ambitions and what I wanted to do. I knew how amazing the performing arts are for young people. I was really quite shy at school. It really brought me out my shell. As I say, it gave me a sense of belonging and purpose. So I really wanted to give back. And I thought, well, the best way to do this is by opening my own school. I didn't want just a dance school because that tends to come with a lot of exams, which I'm not a massive believer in. And also, I had seen the entertainment world change. It wasn't enough just to dance, you had to be able to sing and act also. So, anyway, that led me to the first school. Razzamataz Theatre School was born at the Penrith Players Theatre in Penrith in September 2000. So, we are 25 years old next year. I grew the school. I don't know if that's coming up or you want me to stop there of how I grew the business.
I mean, you can go on to talk about the business if you like. I'm just happy to listen.
Yeah, so then I grew the school because it was only the business model was only really 3 hours originally. I thought, well, I was actually a dancer and choreographer at the Oasis, which is now Centre Parks in Penrith at the same time. So Razzmatazz was just a little sideline for me. It was doing really well. So then I decided, it was just a Sunday morning. So then I decided to launch another school in Carlisle. Then I launched another school in Dumfries, another school in Keswick, another school in I lose track of them all. West Cumbria, Paisley. So I basically had about 7 schools and I ran out of days of the week basically. So I thought, how do I scale my business when there's only one of me? If I'm being honest, I don't even think I knew what franchising was. But I did my research and I knew that franchising was a way to scale a business like mine. I looked at my competitors that were out there and I decided just to go for it. And I remortgaged. I had a little flat at the time. I remortgaged my flat. Took a bit of a risk because I didn't know if anybody was going to want to buy my brand. I didn't know if they were going to love it as much as I loved it. So I launched in 2000 and I franchised in 2006. And then I appeared on Dragon's Den in 2007, which I think you're going to come up to in a minute.
Yeah, we will come to that. Definitely. I was just going to ask before we get there, though, that that's quite a big shift to go from a career in musical theatre and dancing and then into running a business. Did you always have that entrepreneurial spirit? Had you always wanted to get into business?
Yeah, I think I did, but I didn't know I did. I don't have any business degree. I did do something at college, but I dropped out. I've got no degree in business. I've got no sort of background in business as such, but I am really incredibly hardworking, ambitious. I love working. And for me, it was never about money. It was very much about the passion and just the fact that I can do this once. Why don't I do it again and again and again? So yeah, I guess it was a big jump, and I've learned a lot on the job, as they say, and I've surrounded myself with really good people, and I've asked lots of questions, and I think that's really important to not be scared to admit that you don't know everything and reach out to lots of organizations like the Chamber of Commerce. Reach out to these organizations. There's so much help out there. People really want to see other people succeed if you surround yourself in the right circles.
I imagine there are some parallels as well between the world of sort of acting and business in a way, because you're working in a team and you've got to get along with people really well, and there's a real emphasis on high performance. Do you see that parallel?
Yeah, there's definitely transferable skills. That's why at Razzamataz we are very much about the soft skills that performing arts offer. We know that most of our students will not necessarily have a career in the arts, but whatever they do in life, the skills they're going to learn is, collaboration, teamwork, confidence. You're going to have to go into an interview and make eye contact. Probably at some point you'll have to do a presentation. All of that takes a lot of confidence and, those life skills that don't necessarily come when you're sitting at a desk, learning maths or English. And to be honest, it's all about putting on a bit of a show. I mean, there's no better word than razzmatazz and putting on a show. And you might not feel like doing the show, but you need to do the show and you need to put that face on and, put the persona on and really bring the energy when you need to.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? Like sort of going for a job interview, or you could see that as sort of performing in a way, and that's
Yeah,
what you help kids with.
yeah, absolutely. You have to learn how to be comfortable about promoting yourself, to be honest. Trying everyone's after the same job, aren't they? So it is very competitive. So sometimes that could make the difference. Someone that, is a little bit more confident at that interview than someone that's maybe a little bit shy and, they're not able to sort of sell themselves, if you like.
So if you could take us back to 2007 when you went on Dragon's Den, what made you decide to apply to be on the show?
So I used to come back, it was on a Tuesday night, way back then, 17 years ago, and I would come back from my school at West Cumbria and we would always watch it. And I just found it really fascinating. As I say, I've always loved business, I guess, even though I didn't realize as a young child, like I was always doing things like cake sales and organizing garage sales, and I was always raising money for charity. So I loved organizing events. That's what I loved. So I just took a keen interest in watching it. My actual idea when I thought of applying to Dragon's Den wasn't Razmataz. It was actually a game. It was a performing arts game for after school clubs because I've seen a bit of a gap in the market that, the after school clubs, there was a high demand for performing arts. But sometimes getting people into that role was quite challenging because you have to do DBS checks. Are they reliable? Are they going to turn up? Is their content good? So our game was basically to solve that problem. But because I didn't have a prototype ready, they looked at my CV. They obviously looked and seen that Razzamataz was already established. I had already franchised it. Also, I think some people think that I only franchised after Dragon's Den. I had already franchised it. So they asked me to come on with Razmataz, and I be honest, I was a bit reluctant at first because it was very much my baby. And as I said, it was very much about the passion for me and giving back to communities and young people. And Dragon's Den, I think some people say, is all about money. And I just didn't want people to think that was the only reason that I had gone on the show. But equally, I knew I had a great business. I knew we were doing great things in our communities, and the children in those communities are benefiting. So I knew that the worst that I was going to get from it was a little bit of PR. So yeah, decided to apply. Then I was invited to Manchester for a screen test, and then very quickly I was invited onto the show. So it was a very quick process, to be honest. I didn't have a huge amount of time to think about it.
Was it a difficult application process, or was it quite smooth?
I mean, it was a bog standard application form, who I was, my background, what my idea was, what problem it solved. The screen test, I guess, was just making sure that you could speak in front of a camera and you weren't going to completely crumble. Although it's very easy to crumble when you get in that studio, by the way, and I've seen quite a lot of people do that. So I guess that's just to make sure that you're comfortable in front of a crew and a camera. And then obviously when I went on the show, I took 4 children with me.
I was reading on Razzamataz's website before we came on that those children have actually gone on to do great things in their careers and in some in musical theatre.
Yeah, one of them, I think she's doing health and safety in Australia, so she's off to international waters. The boy is in Edinburgh. Mirren, I think, is recording, but Daniela, she was actually played Elsa in Frozen in London's West End.
Wow.
And she just goes from West End to West End to West End. She's been in pretty much everything you can think of. So yeah, she's went on to West End stardom, if you like, after that, and she's so talented. She's amazing. They're all talented though, and they've all went
Yeah.
into different areas of life. But when it comes to theatre, yeah, she's went on to quite achieve quite a lot in the West End.
So you walk into the den, and I just rewatched your episode, and it's really really good. And the kids do a performance, and then it kind of goes from there. Can you just talk us through what the whole thing was like? Because they are quite hard on you, I think, at times, but you stand your ground. Can you just tell us about it?
Yeah, so obviously it's a lift now, isn't it? It wasn't a lift nearly 20 years ago. I had to go up the stairs, and the kids were obviously really excited. For them, they were just appearing on TV. It was super exciting for them. For me, I think I did actually, be sick in the toilet because my nerves were unbelievable. So as much as I'm promoting confidence, I'm having to blag it too. I'm having to pretend that I'm confident when I'm actually walking up those stairs. I'm terrified. So and you go in and you genuinely haven't met the dragons before. You're not allowed to meet them, and the room is very dark. The crew's all around. They obviously, I think, deliberately set up a bit of an intimidating atmosphere. Um, and yeah, the kids obviously performed, and then the kids left the den because obviously they didn't want the kids there when I start doing my pitch. But yeah, if you look at the pitch now, I look like a rabbit caught in headlights. I was terrified. But I had rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it and rehearsed it. So I kind of knew what I was going to say. I knew that they were going to probably criticize the whole finance thing, which is obviously the thing that they did all criticize other than Duncan. But I felt like I stood my ground a little bit with that. And I knew that if anyone was going to invest, it would have been Duncan because they all had products. I didn't have a product, I had a service. And if you read Duncan's book, then obviously if you know Duncan, he made his fortune and success through services, lots of different services. So there was a correlation there. He also loves performing arts. He went to America and did a year at performing arts school in America. So I knew that there was going to be some sort of correlation there. But was it a scary experience? Absolutely.
I mean, I can only imagine. Yeah, but you obviously did very well, and you came out with the backing from Duncan. What was it like after the show? How involved was Duncan initially, and have you kind of gone on to remain in contact?
He was more involved than I thought, not in the day-to-day operations, of course. I don't think anyone would expect that. But when I emailed him, I actually thought that his PA would reply. But actually, it was always Duncan that replied, and he replied very quickly. Might have only been one line sometimes, but he did reply, he always would reply, and he would always reply really quickly. So from that perspective, he was quite involved, but not obviously the day-to-day operations, obviously. So yeah, we had a really great working relationship. I think there was 2 documentary follow-ups, and I met Duncan a few times. He came to Cumbria, I went down to London. We don't keep in touch anymore. I bought my shares back 7 years into the relationship. And normally an investor, once they're no longer involved, they move on. Plus, he's quite rightly so, traveling the world and enjoying his success.
So as I was looking on the website before this conversation, I read that you now have more than 50 schools in the UK. Is that number still correct?
Yeah, we're going through a rebrand at the minute, actually. So the new website's getting built right now. We have 61 schools and hopefully going international next year also.
Wow. Yeah, that's brilliant. So how would you say that the appearance on Dragon's Den has propelled the business to the success you see now?
Oh, massively, massively. We definitely would not have grown. We would have grown, but we wouldn't have grown to this size, I don't think, without the support of Dragon's Den, because you can't buy that kind of publicity. The very next day, the holiday company too, they contacted me and invited myself and Duncan in because it just so happened they were looking for a performing arts service. And we then had a 10-year relationship with TUI. So we actually trained about 50 teachers in our studios in Carlisle, and then we would fly them out internationally all over the world. And they would do 2 months at the TUI resort. So mum, dad can have a break, and the children had tuition, and then they did a performance on the main stage. So we wouldn't, without Dragon's Den, I definitely would not have gained that contract. We've worked with the toy giant Mattel, Warner Brothers, huge brands. Like, to
Yeah.
think we're quite a small company, and these huge brands approach us. We don't chase these contracts, they approach us. We wrote a Be Your Authentic Self program last year for Mattel, and that was for the release of Monster High 2. So we've done some really exciting work with some really big brands that the kids have, had the opportunity to get involved in as well.
So it's not just the investment, but it's also the promotion and the connections that you can make as well.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
What would you say to anyone who's thinking about applying at the minute?
Honestly, if you've got a good business, what have you got to lose? Like, just rehearse. I do think some people, and again, that I guess this comes from my performing arts background, like rehearse, even though I was quite embarrassed rehearsing for my husband. I thought, well, if I can do it in front of you, I can do it in front of anyone, because I find it quite embarrassing. So just rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Don't go in and think, oh, I'll just say whatever. Like, rehearse, literally write a script, rehearse it, know your figures, although it is easy to forget things when you're in that environment. I know probably people are watching at the telly and thinking, oh my God, I can't believe they don't know what they're saying. It's a really intense environment. But just practice in front of friends and family, and be confident. And what have you got to lose? If you know you've got a decent business, the PR from it is amazing.
One last question, Denise, before you go. Looking towards the future, what's the future like for Razzamataz? What are your plans over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
So we're 25 next year, so really exciting year for us. First of all, we are having our conference, so for our principals, our franchisees in Paris in the Eiffel Tower. And the reason we're doing that is we've got 700 children leading the Disney parade. So we're having the celebration at the Eiffel Tower, and then our students are performing at Disneyland Paris. We're also hopefully launching in the UAE. So I'm the master franchise for the UAE. So we're looking to sell Dubai at the moment, launch Dubai, but followed by Abu Dhabi and then other regions in the UAE. Continuing with our growth in the UK, that's not going to slow down. We've actually got quite a lot of territories to still sell in the UK, to continue to really support our franchise partners, because if they're not successful, we're not successful. Continue to offer as many opportunities as we can for our young people, our students. So as well as Paris, we're going back to Broadway. So we're doing a big trip to Broadway where we had master classes with the cast from Wicked. Then we went to watch Wicked. We're actually going to Dubai with some of the children in 2 weeks, and they're performing at the World Trade Center in Dubai. And we're also going to be taking them to like the Museum of the Future, the Burj Khalifa. It's a real enrichment trip. I was lucky enough to go to Canada when I was 15. And it does really open up your eyes to what is out there. I was from a little town, I guess a bit like Penrith, quite a small town. And to get an opportunity to do that, it really opens up young people's eyes to opportunities and can just like that spark sometimes that will give them the ambition and the drive of maybe what they want to do in their life. So yeah, just that, lots of exciting things in the pipeline, continue to grow. Obviously, at some point, I might be planning my exit at some point, but that's probably 10 years away. We do have a 10-year vision in place. And on a personal note, my family spend quite a lot of time in Dubai as well. So we're spending more and more time over there, splitting our time between there and the UK. So we're very lucky. I've got two children, 17 and 10. So yeah, just feel very, very blessed, really.
Fantastic. It's been great talking to you, Denise. Thanks so much for your time. And yeah, all the best with the next stage of Razzamataz.
Thanks so much. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you.